Hello everyone, it's been a while since we talked about Immortal Empires Expanded, but it's actually received a very large update, changing around some areas to give them a proper look and feel like they're part of the Warhammer Fantasy universe. It's very difficult to do because there is no proper mapping for these areas officially, barring just some kind of outdated world maps, let's be very clear there. But if you haven't played with this mod before, I consider this to be one of the complete experiences for the Immortal Empires map, as it introduces into Khuresh, the Northern Chaos Waste proper, Nippon, the Lost Isles, 175 extra settlements to those that you already have in the normal Immortal Empires map. And we're going to talk about this today because, one, it's awesome, and two, we need to talk about the update. Whereas you can see the Southern Chaos Wastes have been expanded quite dramatically all the way up to the Gates of Caliph. This is a little visual redesign with the magic bubble that's supposed to be just to protect the high elves around that area. So this benefits the Chaos Warriors, especially Be'lakor if you like to go down south, and also Kairos if you don't want to push up to the Southlands very early into your campaign, which I think a lot of people like to wait a little bit on. The thing is, you couldn't before. Once you got rid of that Minus Nesh faction, that's it. You had to push forward, and even then, you would normally get Techless fighting you, and you will still heal, but the idea is more expansion allows you to kind of do a few more things, maybe plan an invasion of Khuresh if you so wish. Speaking of which, Khuresh looks just absolutely immense. So obviously a huge visual redesign. They're getting ready for the big Khuresh mod to release. We've already had a unit mod release just to kind of tide things over, but it's following the design and interpretation of what the modders wanted for their lands. It looks absolutely awesome. So massive, a lot of twists and turns. By the way, if you're playing with the Chaos Warriors, there are a lot of Dark Fortresses inside of Khuresh too. So you've got incentive to push down through Cafe and go there, or with one of the many mods. Keep in mind there are a lot, and I mean a load of mods, which are compatible with the Immortal Empires Expanded mod. So this allows you just to kind of have different experiences across the world. It's so good once you start to see this, because just with the map expansions, it allows you to just have a lot more freedom, which I think is what everyone kind of wants. Even if we don't eventually get a DLC for Khuresh in than the rest, just having the territories there allows for just a little bit more freedom of play for every faction there, not just the playable legendary lords, but even the minor ones to kind of expand and do their own thing. I have really enjoyed looking through these areas. The Gates of Caliph look awesome. There's some little islands around the area too, which is going to allow for staging areas if you want to launch an invasion there. And right next to that, obviously, we do have the lands of Ind. Ind itself, God, man, it's so good. Even the Mountains of Heaven, everything looks really cool. So originally when I talked about this mod a long time ago, a lot of stuff wasn't fully textured and so on. That stuff takes ages. It has to look respectful to the IP, but also it has to look the part in general and be functional. It's really cool. I think there's just enough room there and different biomes to really kind of feel like it's Warhammer India. And there's a fair amount of settlements just to really build up there too. I think it's just going to make it better overall. Just for, if you're playing with Ghost or with Zhao Ming, you don't want to push up, you don't want to attack your sister. Why not push down? Take the Monkey King's territories. Or just fully take over Ind. It gives you a nice foothold over a subcontinent, which will allow you to boost up your economy quite dramatically. Again, very cool, considering the very little amount of lore that we do have for these areas. It's one of my biggest bugbears with Games Workshop. So much of the world is still unknown, which is really funny compared to 40k, where you've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pages for Pleasure Planet XYZB, it's just ridiculous. But with this, we have the experience for the Immortal Empires that a lot of people have been asking for, because those areas are in the game vanilla-wise. It's just empty. You can't go there. Every now and then a tree gets moved for some reason by the devs. I guess it's just because when they do map updates, that just kind of works onto that. It just kind of sucks though, because I think a lot of people are just bothered with it. It's what happened with Warhammer 1 with the Wood Elves, and eventually that area was opened up. I'd love to see this opened up fully, properly. But that's not all. Lumbria was added in, which is really funny, because there's supposed to be giant pygmies there, and it's being represented by ogres, which I think that works quite well. And then It's just a small area, obviously, but you've got Nippon, you've got the Lost Isles. We've talked about this in the past. I don't think they've had any new visual updates recently, but it's really, really important. Just seeing them there adds so much more depth to the map. Again, I don't blame CA for not adding them in. I think that's more of a Games Workshop issue. There's a few problems when it comes to Nippon, just in general lore, but you never know for the future. We do know that it has been mentioned before, and it has been mentioned in the Old World a few times, so who never know, maybe. The Lost Isles of Elephas are also there. It's just something that doesn't really speak to me too much, mostly because, yeah, to be fair, not much is really there for the Lost Isles. I don't think another high elf kind of country is 100% needed, but it's good to have for extra room, especially if you just want larger campaigns. I don't know about you guys, but I love very, very large campaigns. It just adds to the whole feeling of taking over the world. I like to play that with the Skaven or the Chaos Warriors, and we were talking about the Chaos Warriors in a little bit because I think that is quite important. Warhammer Korea was redone a little bit just to kind of rename stuff, mostly because it finally has an official name by Games Workshop. We now know it as the Lands of Kosun. So that's fully there for people to rampage through. It's also got some defensive fortresses there, which I really, really like. It's going to protect anyone in there from the Chaos Marauders, because there are a lot of Chaos Marauders when you start looking towards everything else, because obviously the Northern Chaos Wastes are freaking gigantic. You've got so much room there now. There's a lot of Dark Fortresses up there. There's even a portal to connect you to the other side where Valkyr is, and there's even interconnecting paths where Archeon is, well, more closer to where Tamukan is. So if you really want to unite the Chaos Warbands prior to that, yeah, you can, which I think is really, really important. I just recently played a little bit with Bertsche the Curseling, and I tell you, it's really makes the campaign so much better. It is literally just like apples and oranges now when comparing both. You definitely have more reasons to build up, and this is a very, very important thing about this mod. It just really allows for that movement that has been sadly lacking, and it's no fault of Creative Assembly. It's just you need Games Workshop to approve that. That's the problem. These maps have been mapped out properly, Games Workshop get involved, IP lawyers, blah, 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 blah. The rest of the world has largely remained the same, but there have been some additions. Like, for example, there is some territory up where Valkyr is, to give her a little bit more breathing room going up north. It's so important for the Warriors of Chaos that are stuck up north, and it's important for the Warriors of Chaos just as full to have some sort of Dark Fortresses, or even just good settlements for the Norskin vassals to be able to use. So I think that's quite good. There's also some other territory, like a small little fort area around near where old Kislev used to be. Remember that Kislev was much larger than how it's supposed to be now. This is, funny enough, where the old world happens, where most of Kislev gets destroyed. So you do get a nice little cliff there. There's some islands around the old world, some extra settlements in, well, one extra settlement in Norska. There are just a bunch of island areas, which is really, really good if you're playing as the Vampire Coast and you want to play more of the settlement hopping, so you can just stay in those islands, and rather than confederate or just build through the lands in the major continents, you can just use that as ports. But like I said, overall, it makes the map feel a lot more fuller, which I think is incredibly important for a game like this, because if you might notice in vanilla, it does feel a bit constrained, especially as new DLCs come in. You know, Tides of Torment is coming. There are 4 new Legendary Lords to play with. That's going to be, again, a lot more congestion, which I feel like the players are starting to notice more and more now. I would argue that map expansions are also a much needed quality of life. I'm not saying make like the Empire bigger, it's impossible, but a little bit push north to get more of the Chaos Waste. We are expecting a lot more Chaos stuff in the future, like the Glotkin and so on, so that's going to be needed. And yeah, if possible, they have to start talking to Games Workshop about opening up in Khuresh, just so those areas are properly open. But until then, we do have a fantastic mod with this. And I think a very important way to showcase on how drastically better this can feel is for the Warriors of Chaos campaign. So I'm just playing for a little bit of Village, and it's so important, mainly for the Chaos factions, that you have some push forward. It's just, it helps you build up, not have to push down into Cafe. The Warriors of Chaos, Village included, suffers a lot with it because there's only like 3 dark fortresses in Cafe, and that's it. And then you're just forced to fight amongst yourselves with other legendary lords. This allows you to kind of ignore Kolek and just work your way up. By turn 25, I've got 3 armies up and running, most of them very close to just being full, and a ton, and I mean a serious ton, of just dark fortresses. It makes it feel more like I'm building up. This gives me the Wars of Chaos experience that I'm kind of expecting, building up big armies and then launching my invasion straight down south. I think this is really, really important. The mod itself can be found in the description below. Check it out if you want a really good experience with Immortal Empires. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you all again very soon. I do apologize for being late once again. I just had a lot of paperwork to sort out today. It's just wild what's going on lately. But I'll be live later on just playing a little bit of Dying Light because I'm having fun and I need to beat something to death. See ya guys. Have a good one.